Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. New neighbor is demanding I cut down my peach tree. After that, am I the jerk for feeding my dog table scraps from a dinner my boyfriend made me? And after that, my former crush married my brother and thought that I'd be okay with it. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to make anyone cut down their tree. Oh, I'll find a way, Reddit boy. I always do. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. New neighbor is demanding I cut down my peach tree. I, 46 male, have an apple tree in my backyard and a peach tree in my front yard. I'm currently living in my parents' house with my wife, who's 46. My mother and father planted them. They passed and we decided to plant more. I only trim them when the branches get too big. They're mostly for the wildlife in the nearby woods. The deer love to come and eat the fruit. I don't spray them with any pesticides as they aren't for human consumption. I work during the week and don't get home until the evening. I haven't had any issues with the neighbors as the house is mostly in the countryside and surrounded by woods. A few weeks ago, a new neighbor moved into the house next door. I haven't had any interaction with them until now. I was not aware that the neighbor was coming over and grabbing fruit from my peach tree. I got home yesterday and the neighbor was standing on my porch. She comes storming over to my car and says the peaches made her and her son sick. I told her that the fruit was mostly for decoration and for the wildlife. She starts screaming at me and threatens to call the cops unless I take the trees down. I told her no, I'm not going to take the trees down. My wife suggested going out to the grocery store and buying her some peaches just to keep the peace. Not the jerk. Let her call the police. And if they show up, explain to them that she was stealing your organic stone fruit. Definitely don't buy her anything. That could be construed as liability. OP should contact the police to report the interaction regardless. This woman had the audacity to come onto your property and steal from you, then complain that they got sick from the fruit that they stole. Considering her angry reaction, she may try and cut the trees down herself. Keep your guard up, OP. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Tell her to go ahead and tell the cops. It would save you a call to report the trespasser entering your property and taking your fruit. What a loon. Do not buy her peaches to keep the peace. That's goofy. Tell her to stay off your property to keep the peace. Throw a bottle of Pepto at her kid to keep the peace too. Am I the jerk for feeding my dog table scraps from a dinner my boyfriend made for me? I, 24 female, have been dating Jay, 28 male, for 4 months. He's handsome, smart, funny, well-educated, has an awesome job, and he's a sweetheart. Sunday, he had a whole day planned for us. We were going to walk a nature trail and then go back to his place for dinner he was making. I was so excited because it was going to be the first time I'd be at his house. Since we were hiking, he said I could bring my dog, Shelby, with us. He made us a roast and some vegetables for dinner. I finished my plate before Jay did and took it to the kitchen. There was still about half the roast left, and it was close to Shelby's dinner time, so I took half of the roast and some still raw vegetables from the fridge to put on a plate for Shelby. I was carrying the plate to the back door with Shelby to feed her outside, and Jay asked me what I was doing. I told him I was feeding Shelby. Jay said something like, "Well, that's not dog food." Jay knows I mainly feed Shelby a raw diet. I opened the door to put the plate down for Shelby, and Jay got up, took the plate away from her, went to the kitchen, and came back with it wrapped up in tinfoil and told me to leave. His excuse was that he made dinner for me and him, not me, him, and my dog, and that I should have asked before I helped myself since he would have used his leftovers. I did leave, but not before telling him that he made that meal for us, so I could do with some of it as I pleased, and he knew darn well how I feed Shelby. I tried talking to my friend about it later that night, but she said Jay was right to be upset. But this friend has never really approved of how I treat my own dog, so I feel like she was probably a bit biased and the wrong person to ask. Am I the jerk for just feeding my dog like I normally would? Clarification: she does not get restaurant food daily. I eat out maybe 4 times a month. If what I eat is dog safe, or if the restaurant makes food for dogs on request, then I bring some home for her. Shelby's daily meals are a bit of brown rice, raw vegetables, and ground chicken hearts and beef livers. The hearts and livers are boiled just enough to kill bacteria, and that's all with the approval of Shelby's vet. I asked Jay how he prepared the roast so I could know if it was safe to give her. That's also why I got her fresh, unused vegetables from the fridge. Update. I accept that I'm the jerk for what I said and did to Jay. Some of these responses were harsh, but I see now how and why I was entitled, thanks to people that respond to the actual issue. Others going on about her diet, thanks for the concern, but I came here to ask about Jay, not get into a debate about dog food. Shelby's been on her diet for 6 years and is a healthy and active pup. That's all I and my vet need to know. As for Jay, I apologized to him, and he did accept my apology, but he broke it off. He said it was the last straw for him over me doing things without asking first. He's talked to me about taking things off his plate or his drink without asking before. I've tried to do better, but keep slipping up. I didn't realize I was that bad about it, so I'm going to work on myself for the next guy. For people that said not going to his place for 4 months was a red flag, that was my decision that he respected. I don't want to go to someone's house or let them know where I live within the first few months of dating and getting to know each other. Yes, you're the jerk. Your now ex-boyfriend made a special meal for you. You took a large hunk of that special meal and gave it to your dog. Not only that, but you did so knowing it would upset him. You should have brought dog food to feed Shelby. You should not have fed Shelby with people food, and you should particularly not have fed your dog with the special dinner your now ex-boyfriend had prepared for you. It is wholly irrelevant that Jay knows you mainly feed Shelby a raw diet. Edit. Also, the title of your post is misleading. Table scraps are what's left over on your plate after you finish eating. They are not a quarter of the roast your boyfriend prepared. You're the jerk. A quarter of a roast is not table scraps. How is the fact that you mainly feed your dog a raw diet at all relevant? Also, holy entitlement, Batman. Add, you made the dinner for me, so I can do with it as I please. By that logic, it would have been perfectly acceptable to flush it down the toilet. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her ex-boyfriend? Please let us know. Some people just have no social awareness whatsoever. My former crush married my brother and thought I'd be okay with it. I, 25 male, used to have the biggest crush on my childhood friend, Emily, who's 26 female. As a teen, I wasn't very assertive and a little awkward, so I never made a move and just hoped that one day Emily would realize that I was the guy for her. The only person who I openly admitted my crush, although it was kind of obvious, to was my brother, Liam, 28 male. He was much more assertive and confident than I was, and had had plenty of girlfriends, so I went to him for advice about Emily. Given the situation at the time, you can imagine my surprise when I caught Liam and Emily hooking up. I know that she technically was never my girlfriend, but it still sucked and I did feel betrayed. Turns out they hooked up at a party once and liked the encounter so much that they kept meeting up to do this when no one else was around. I felt completely sick and basically just distanced myself from Emily after that, which could be really awkward because we had a lot of classes together and we had the same shift at the part-time job we had, a job that Emily frequently depended on me to give her rides to. I just wanted to remove Emily from my life completely, but during the summer of our senior year, she and Liam sat me and my parents down and explained that Emily had gotten pregnant and they were planning on keeping the baby. My parents weren't happy, while I just got up and locked myself in my room. All I could think was, well, crap, now she's never going to go away. I purposefully transferred to an out-of-state college so I wouldn't be home as much and lied about getting stuck in traffic when I missed Emily and Liam's wedding, and I showed no interest in my niece, Daisy, who's 8, although I still make the effort to be polite when I'm around them. Recently, Emily's father passed, and she's really going through it because despite him not being around, she always desired a relationship. When we were kids, I remember all those times I was a shoulder for Emily to cry on whenever she felt sad about her dad, and I guess she was longing for that type of comfort from me and kept reaching out. One day I relented and I let her vent, but I maintained a silent and formal demeanor on the matter. After spending about an hour crying, I offered Emily some water, and then she asked me why I was being so cold, how I know how much she needed a friend right now. I calmly yet firmly told her that we were just kids then, and that if she wants that level of emotional intimacy, then she needs to go to my brother, her husband, because I stopped being her comfort person a long time ago. Emily cried even more, left, and has managed to send Liam, my parents, Emily's mom, and from mutual friends to call me up and tell me I'm heartless and sad for being so spiteful. I can honestly say that I am now over Emily, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to be as close to her as I used to. So, am I the jerk? ETA. Had to step away, and after looking at the comments and DMs, I just wanted to be clear about some things. 1. Did I exhibit some nice guy traits as a teenager? Yes. As an adult, I now realize that Emily doesn't owe me a romantic relationship. 2. I was more angry at my brother than I was at Emily, because, he was my brother and he knew. 3. I don't see how me not taking an active role in the life of a kid that I didn't make is me punishing someone. I say hello and I give gifts on Christmas and holidays. 4. Again, Emily is married, so I find it odd that she would seek out someone who isn't her husband for emotional support. 5. Yes, I did give my condolences when I found out about Emily's father because it was the polite thing to do. Then she started trying to call me to talk about it. 6. Emily and I haven't had meaningful contact since high school, partly because she was busy getting ready to be a mom, and I was hurt and trying to get over her. 7. No, Liam and I aren't close anymore either. ETA 2. 1. Yes, I have a girlfriend, and from what I can tell, we're both very happy. 2. Yes, my girlfriend knows about my former crush on Emily. 3. Also, in spite of everything, I did learn to be more forthcoming with my feelings, which is why I told Emily that I can't be her comfort person. Although I will admit that there could have been a better way and better timing to communicate that. You had a crush in high school on a girl, but never asked her out. Somebody else did, and she married them. It's a decade later, and you still ignore her kid, who is literally your niece, because you're salty about it. Dude, this isn't healthy. Please get help. I have to put you're the jerk, but this is beyond am I the jerk. You've spent 9 years being so bitter. That's really sad for you. I don't think you're the jerk for telling Emily you can't be that person for her, but you're definitely the jerk for spending so much time being angry and obstinate. Don't spend the rest of your life like this. It will only bring more of the same. When she came to you, she came to someone who she thought she could rely on, and you went, "Go to the guy that actually wants you." That's really immature. Edit 2. Replying to OP's edit. I mean, it really shows he still has some growing to do. I mean, he only said condolences because it was the polite thing to do. Dude, she's your sister-in-law and was your childhood friend that did nothing to you. How cruel. Big nice guy energy here. You literally friend-zoned her since, by your own words, you only kept being her friend because you were waiting for her to fall for you. She fell for your brother instead, and you got bitter about it because she suddenly was damaged goods to the point you don't even want a relationship with your niece. She never knew how you felt. Even your brother probably thought it was just a childhood crush. Then you act like a total jerk by kicking her while she's down after practically ghosting her emotionally for 8 years. Wow, she should thank her lucky stars she got the brother and not you if you're going to behave this way. 100% you're the jerk and you need therapy to work through this unresolved obsession. Going against the grain here, not the jerk. I've had besties and stepsisters that pulled the same crap as your brother. If she cared about your friendship that much, she wouldn't have been messing around with your brother. The fact that you had to catch on to this situation and she never told you as her bestie speaks volumes. Just because she had his kid doesn't mean the disrespect never happened, and quite frankly, you're right. She can't get the support from her husband that she needs and wants to play the bestie card now that she needs you to do emotional labor for free. No, she can get a therapist for her daddy issues. However, it's time to stop lying. Tell them both why you can never trust either of them. You really thought the pain of your brother and best friend lying to you and messing around behind your back would get better with time, but it's not going to. Your brother is a creep and you know it. Then add in the added grossness of him knowing full well that this was the only person you were interested in. Break away from all of it. Oh, and talk to somebody professional. You still have much to process, and I believe it will affect future romance. Take care of yourself. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for not feeling sorry for my homeless parents and not offering my house for them to stay in? I'm 30, female. My parents had me at age 15. My whole childhood was bad. They never put me up for adoption or anything like that because my grandparents would help. And every time the authorities were called, they suddenly became the best parents in the world and blackmailed me to lie. But the reality is, I lived alone most of the week, and at 8 years old, I already knew how to make myself a meal, and by myself, while my parents were partying, traveling, drinking, or fighting. When I was 15, they fell in love again, and they had kids like rabbits, who are 15, 13, 12, 11, and 9. I left home when I was 18 years old. It hurt in the bottom of my soul to have to leave my siblings, but I couldn't stand it and I had no financial condition. At 24, I landed a job that pays me very well. At 25, the authorities contacted me, saying that they had taken away my parents' custody of all of their kids and asked if I was able to take care of at least one of them. They were looking for relatives. I said I would take care of all of them. I know it's not my responsibility, but a part of me, I always wanted to get them out of that, and only now I had a good job. My house is not very big, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, but my husband and I, he also wanted to, we were able to accommodate everyone and we were not so tight financially. They are good students, polite and affectionate. I don't regret having welcomed each one of them into our house, and my husband treats everyone as if he were a big brother or a father to the younger ones. My parents tried to get them back, as my grandparents cut off the help after they lost custody, but they couldn't and custody became permanent for me. We haven't had contact with them for 2 years. My father's sister called me, saying that she was shocked seeing my parents being homeless, asking for money on the street. The family is moving to see if someone can shelter them, and they decided to come and ask me if I could shelter them or help financially, since I have a good job. I replied, "Nah, I'll pass. For them, no, and I'd rather give this money to their kids that I'm raising." My father's whole family started to fill me in with messages saying that I'm turning my back on 2 people who slept on the streets, how cold-hearted I am to do this, and I don't even want to help when I can. I blocked everyone. My husband said that he is on my side, but that I should give a symbolic amount so as to not have a weight on my conscience. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You've already had your life ruined multiple times over by these people and have taken on all of their responsibilities. You do not have to do anything else for them. Please get some therapy so you're able to unburden yourself for feeling responsible for these toxic jerks. Every single one of the family members shaming you should be taking in your parents, but have they? No. They could have taken in the kids too, but did they? No. Absolutely block all of them and don't look back. Not the jerk, firmly. Not the jerk. Every person hassling you to take in your parents should be met with the reply, "I'm too busy raising their kids. How about you take them in?" Am I the jerk for telling my husband that if he wants to give money to my stepdaughter, the same amount should be given to my daughter? Me, 46, and my husband, David, who's 51, have been married for 5 years. I have a daughter, Amy, who's 21, and David has a daughter, Erin, who's also 21. They're only a few months apart. Both started college a few years ago. Amy got a scholarship for her school, which combined with the funds me and my ex had for her, pretty much covered everything. Erin moved out of state to Massachusetts, and her school doesn't offer scholarships. David had a college fund for her, and the rest she'll cover herself. What's going on now is David said we have a fair amount of savings, and he wants to give some of that to Erin for her student loans. That's not exactly fair to Amy. He said that hers are paid off, but I replied he should give the same amount to Amy for rent or something else, even if she doesn't have college fees. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Erin plays violin with a local orchestra. She had her first small show about a month ago. We went all the way to Massachusetts because David wanted to see her perform. He was also the one who bought her the violin as a gift when she got into college, but no gift for Amy. We argued over this, and David said that it's difficult for Erin alone. I replied, saying that then she should have stayed here instead of running off to a different state and picking up things like violin to show that she's better than everyone. He got really mad at me for saying that. I'm just trying to be fair, but am I the jerk? You're the jerk. I was leaning towards not the jerk until I got to, she should have stayed here instead of running off to a different state and picking up things like violin to show that she's better than everyone. That's a very strange and immature thing to say and throws the story into, I don't think we're getting the whole story land. Your husband is right. You've only been together 5 years, so your daughters must have been 17 when you got together, almost adults. You and your ex are responsible for your own daughters. You speak derogatorily about his daughter as well, mocking her for going to school out of state, for taking up the violin. You sound resentful that your husband wanted to see her first performance. Wow, you want things fair? That's a joke. Fair would be for your husband to not have a gold digger for a wife. You're the jerk, big time. You're the jerk. First, there's no true equality here. Erin is his daughter. She should always be his number one priority. Amy is your daughter, who should be your number one priority. You both became step-parents to the other fairly late in their lives. You can absolutely play those roles for your own kids if that's how it's agreed. But your own kids are obviously each still your own separate priorities. It is 100% okay for your husband to provide financially for his daughter with his money any way he chooses. If he was taking your money to allocate to his daughter, that would be completely different. You felt the weird need to qualify her orchestra show as small. To what purpose? It felt like you were implying that makes it less important. I'll be blunt. Forget that. Being passionate enough at age 21 to play violin in an orchestra? That's amazing. And what a wonderful gift by your husband to get her a violin. These are things that should be completely celebrated by you. He's clearly a caring family man. That should be such an attractive quality you see in him. Instead, you're completely raining on their parade and making this all about you and your daughter instead. Yup, you're the jerk. Am I the jerk for telling my fiancé that he embarrassed me when he started singing the happy birthday song to his 5-year-old son at the restaurant? I, female 30, have been with my fiancé, Ned, male 36, for a year and a half. He has a 5-year-old son with his ex-girlfriend. They don't have a custody arrangement, but he has him most of the week because the mom is currently sick. His son is lovely, but I noticed that Ned takes him everywhere he goes, including places that aren't child-friendly, and we have an issue with that now, but we're working on it. His son's 5th birthday was a few days ago. Ned took us out to a restaurant to celebrate. The place was nice, and it looked a bit unfitting for the occasion because it was a somewhat expensive place. Anyways, we ordered food, then got the birthday cake, which was a surprise to me because I thought we were going to celebrate at home, so we could be free to sing and play however we wanted. I still had no issue with that until Ned started singing the happy birthday song to his son. I was stunned and I almost dropped my plate. He was singing it at the top of his lungs, not even looking around or paying attention to how many people were staring at us awkwardly. I felt so embarrassed, I kept whispering for him to stop, but he ignored me. Of course, my future stepson was hyped and a little too active, which isn't good when we're at a public place. I expected the staff, the manager, anyone to get involved and stop him, but no one did. In fact, some woman came up to us and offered that she help him take a video recording. I wasn't in it at all. I froze in my seat, looking stunned and a little angry. He looked at me later, asking what was wrong. I didn't say anything except, "Thanks for finally noticing." He didn't understand what I meant, and I didn't explain till we were in the car. I flat out told him that he embarrassed me the second he started singing in the restaurant. He looked shocked, saying he didn't get why I would be embarrassed by him celebrating his son's birthday and cheering him up. I told him we could have done this at home when we'd be more comfortable and free. He took it as in I was ashamed of him and his son, but I denied it and said that it just felt awkward and embarrassing, maybe because I've never been in the situation, and also judging from the restaurant we were at. He said that his son's mom is sick and he's trying to do all he can to cheer him up, and that all families do that, and no one had an issue with that except me. Then when I tried to explain, he got mad and said he no longer felt like talking. We haven't been speaking since. It appears he's still salty about me saying what I said and insinuating that I see him and his son as an embarrassment. Am I the jerk? I think he's being too harsh with the whole ignoring me thing instead of talking it out. He gleefully sang happy birthday to his kid, whose mother is sick, while you sat there sulking in your anger. Are you applying to be an evil stepmother by any chance? You prioritize not being embarrassed over a fun moment between a father and his son. The restaurant staff didn't think it was inappropriate. It doesn't seem that you are a good match for someone with kids. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. You should not marry someone who has a 5-year-old that they love. You're going to be absolutely shocked at how often they will embarrass themselves in public to have fun with their kid. Oh, I truly hope he leaves her for the kid's sake. Also, why would she be embarrassed about something that is cute and not embarrassing at all? Ugh, you're the jerk. It's not embarrassing to sing happy birthday to a kid. It is, however, super embarrassing to look upset at a person who's singing happy birthday to their kid at the same table as you. You're the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her fiancé? Please let us know. When it comes to situations like this, we really need to put our personal feelings aside and just be happy for others. Nobody likes a stick in the mud. The leave loophole. Back in the mid-90s, I worked for a bank that was in the process of being taken over. The bank used to have both sick time and vacation accruals, but the new orders laughed at that and told everyone they'd be migrated to a new time bank system that would give 75% of vacation time and 25% of sick time. Also, only 40 hours of your paid time off was going to carry over to the next year, period. This upset a lot of long-term workers who had been with the company since the 70s. Loads of workers lost literal months of accrued time off because of corporate penny pinching. Up until the takeover, sick time would carry over indefinitely, so if you had a surgery or needed some other form of long-term care, you could take the time off you needed. My coworker, Mary, had been with the company since the new corporate building was opened in 1971. Mary was well past retirement age, but kept working because she liked her job, and it got her out of the house. She wasn't hurting for money either. Her husband had retired from his union job all the way back in the 80s, and his pension had them both well taken care of. But Mary also didn't like being messed around by inane corporate BS. When the change in time off was announced, Mary noticed two things about the announcement. First, the policy would go in effect the next quarter, so there were still 2 months left before the changeover. Second, they would honor sick time for any medical leave that was approved prior to the changeover date, provided the worker had enough sick time and vacation available. The next Monday, Mary filed for medical leave with HR. Her husband had fallen and broke his ankle, and the doctor required that he be in a cast for 8 weeks, with an additional 4 weeks of physical therapy. As Mary was the sole caretaker for her husband, she qualified for medical leave to provide aid for him. Coincidentally, Mary had just enough sick time and vacation to cover the leave. Funny thing is, more than a few of the ladies Mary worked with knew both Mary and her husband, who was built like a workhorse and just as stubborn. The idea that Mary needed to care for her husband was preposterous, let alone the idea that her husband would want Mary to take care of him. 3 months pass by, and Mary returns to the office to pack her belongings. It turns out that after confirming her medical leave was going to be paid out, she timed her retirement to coincide with the end of the leave. You want it all for free? About 10 years ago, I had a metalworking project with 2.5-inch stainless steel tubing, and when it was done, I had several feet left. Made a walkway guardrail and some other stuff, including some large garden arches with plant shelves for my wife. The wife posts them on Facebook, and a random woman shows up wanting to borrow one for a wedding arch. We don't know her. She saw the pictures and contacted my wife about them, and my wife told her they were too big to move around, but she showed up anyway. First it's borrow, and I tell her they're too large for a pickup truck, and being stainless, they are quite heavy. Took a forklift to put them in place, and they are anchored into the ground. She says she can get someone to pick one up, then wants me to get a forklift to load it. Nope, I have to cut it loose from its anchors and re-weld it when it gets back, and I never intended to move it. I have to move large landscaping stone blocks just to get to it. She's not having any of it. She must have that arch or it will ruin her baby's wedding. Then she wants me to paint it white. The point of stainless is you don't have to paint it, ever. And it's a pain in the butt to sand, prep, prime, paint, polish stainless. And afterwards, the stainless will need the sanding scratches polished out again, which I'm not about to do. So hard no. Begging, tears, accusations of permanently damaging her daughter, and screaming. My wife tells her she can have one made, cost is about $4,000, and have it painted someplace else, but she doesn't want to pay for the arch. We are supposed to lend it to her for free. Crazy Lady goes dark for about 2 weeks. Then I get a call from my wife. Crazy Lady is in the driveway with other people, a pickup truck, which the arch won't fit into, and the county sheriff. She's holding a receipt for the arches, both with a sale price of $200, which was obviously home printed, no business name, no business or home address, no signature, and is expecting the deputy sheriff to enforce. Deputy lives about 2 miles up the road, and I've known him for 30 years. Her family and friends are all arguing aggressively with my wife. The deputy is in between, and Crazy Lady is screaming. I told the deputy what had been going on, then he talked to my wife while I held the entitled jerks off, and the deputy finally kicked them off the property with the help of 2 more deputies. The first had to call in for backup. I can't tell you how the wedding went, but it wasn't under my wife's arches. Nope, I'm not moving 4,000-pound stone bricks, tearing up my yard, getting a cutting torch to cut the arches loose, getting my fork truck from my shop out to my home and back again, and reversing the process to lend the arches to anyone. As a side note, she did give ideas to some friends. There have been 2 sets of wedding pictures under the arches, but the arches stayed right where I put them, and no crazy momzillas involved. Karen fakes being pregnant to keep mooching off of me. I'm 20, female, and my brother, who's 24, has been on and off with his girlfriend, who's 27, for a couple of years now. It's been the same song and dance. They're happy for a few weeks, then something small happens, they argue, it gets really nasty, and they make up and are back to being a loving couple. When I learned my brother got kicked out of his apartment and needed a place to stay, I offered him the extra room in my apartment, and my brother agreed to pay rent, help with bills, and pitch in with food. For 3 months now, she's been announcing she's pregnant. She alone will eat a snack box with 50 small bags of chips in a week. I tried to reason with her and get her to cut back, not only from overeating, but she was running us low on food. But she insists she and the baby are healthy and it's just cravings, blah blah blah. Since last month, most of what my parents send to my house, my mom is a couponer, so she bulk shops and gives away what she has too much of. My brother's girlfriend is the first to get into it, and a large portion of it is gone by a few days to a week. From a 24 case of Monster, the energy drink if you're not familiar, 8 will be gone in a week from just her. She eats a crap ton of food too, most of which no pregnant woman should be consuming so much of. And yes, I know all pregnancies are different, but words can't explain how much she eats in one sitting. So today, I had seen her drinking coffee, and after her second cup, I asked her if she should be drinking so much coffee, and she said her doctor told her it was fine and she had no worries. When I suggested she take on a healthier diet for the baby, she just scoffed and walked out. I went and asked my brother if he's been to any of her doctor's appointments or even seen a positive pregnancy test, and he said he hasn't. I confronted her about it, and she said she didn't have to prove anything and started to get defensive. I told her she needed to show a test or some proof of going to the doctor, or she needs to move out as she doesn't help at all. My brother started defending her and changed his answer from not seeing any proof to seeing her pregnancy test. My parents got word of what I said, and my mom says I was in no place to say anything, and everyone's body is different, and I wouldn't know since I've never been pregnant. Am I the jerk? I did talk to her a while ago about getting a job as well as helping out financially, and she said she'd start and never has. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.